leaders, which is one of the reasons I'm stepping up. So Rivermont's given me great perspective. We've got everybody from those that have originally moved here, that have lived in these homes for 40 years, and then we have all the new families that are coming in. So we have, some that want the amenities, upkept, and some that don't want to pay as much in dues because they're on a fixed budget. So I know how to work with all that and, come out with a good outcome for everyone. So I'm excited, and that in itself will be priceless on council. Not to mention, I've also taken conflict resolution. So I know how to work with different personalities even further and find middle ground to get things done. Thank you.
So Larry, can you comment on how your personal and professional experience specifically would be beneficial if you were to be elected to the City Council?
Thank you. That is a great question because it runs to the core of who we are and why we're in front of you today. So over the course of 25 years, I'll say, I traveled literally the world, and I worked with a lot of the major banks. And we set up call centers, and these call centers use an enormous amount of technology. So the financial impact on the bank was significant, and it was expensive. There were multi-million-dollar deals. There were transnational and transatlantic deals. And so meeting with the senior executives at different banks and different institutions, government institutions throughout the world, and establishing that partnership, that relationship, and that trust, that is what is key. Because we'll need that on council. We're going to be dealing with different cities, different Fulton County, AIG type agreements, different personalities, different interests that they may have. So working together, understanding what they need to walk away from the deal with and what we're looking for, and finding that common ground to build that relationship, not because it's a win today, but because it's a long-term strategy, it's a long-term relationship that we're trying to establish. And I feel I've done that for many, many years, and I can bring that to the city.
Okay, we're changing topics now. We're moving on to stormwater, which is close to the heart of some of our people here. Do you believe, Larry, this is for you, sorry. Do you believe that the stormwater utility can be improved upon to help diminish the amount of stormwater the City of Johns Creek currently deals with? And I have two more questions to follow up, but I'll let you answer that.
Would you mind one more time repeating that, please?
Certainly. Do you believe that the stormwater utility can be improved upon to help diminish the amount of stormwater that the City of Johns Creek currently deals with?
It's a complicated subject. So we just passed the utility. We just hired a stormwater director, if you will. So everyone in this room probably received a bill for stormwater. Typically one ERU, residential equivalent unit, at about $69 per person, or per family, for 4,000 square feet. That utility is just the start, and that's how we have to look at this. It's not the end-all to stormwater utility. It's a process that we put in place to build upon. Because can more be done? Absolutely. Is this enough money that we're allocating to stormwater? Absolutely not. There is. We've adopted a sort of a medium stormwater, which is head wall to head wall. There is beyond head wall to head wall, and we need to have honest conversations with ourselves, the public, and we need to come together with what is the fair and equitable way to fix this cancer that is running through our city. I have a fundamental problem with building a massive and beautiful and inspiring town center when deep down inside there are families that are struggling with hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. We need to figure out the right way to do this for the city and the residents.
Repeat the question. With stormwater utility currently in place, no, wrong question. Next. So Larry, I'm sorry, I'm confusing everybody. Let me ask you all the stormwater questions, and then we'll come back to Stacey. So the second one is, with the stormwater utility currently in place, do you believe the city should bear any responsibility to either fund or participate in the funding for the dredging of retention ponds and lakes that are fed by stormwater from public roads and areas outside of subdivisions that receive the stormwater?
That's a very, very, very hard question, because we all know that there's many retention ponds throughout the city, and we've gone ahead and done an assessment for these retention ponds, and we're looking at what is needed. And as I sit here today, I don't know exactly what that cost looked like, but I believe we have to do a full analysis and look at the city and look at the residents and the subdivisions. We cannot just put our heads in the ground and hope this thing will go away. There have been subdivisions, there have been individuals that have been negatively impacted by the lack of funding and work that was done with stormwater for many, many years. And I think now that we've got the foundations to pull something together, we need to have these honest conversations. But I cannot say yes or no as I stand here today, because I just wasn't privy to all the information and what it's going to cost to do all this.
Okay, and the third one related to stormwater. The city of Johns Creek has the largest amount of the Chattahoochee River running through any North Fulton city. We have numerous older subdivisions and golf courses adjacent to the Hooch, which means we have a responsibility to enforce MRPA, the Metropolitan River Protection Act. So here's the question. Should the City of Johns Creek work with the Atlanta Regional Commission to require the education plus continuing education of homeowners, private home sellers, potential home buyers, HOA boards, realtors, tree removal companies, etc., when dealing with the Chattahoochee River with the 2,000-foot zone requirement of the MRPA? This would eliminate the harmful removal of valuable trees that drink large amounts of stormwater and stop erosion along the area next to the Hooch.
The answer is yes to all that. I believe that we need to look at the whole region, and we need to understand that many subdivisions are in a basin, and we need to protect the basin with the trees. We need to make sure that we don't deforest or de-tree Johns Creek. We need to protect the Chattahoochee River as it stands, because it is such a blessing to have the Chattahoochee here. We need to figure out a way on how to elevate that and make that an asset of this community. But we need to protect it, because if we take the trees away, there will be even greater stormwater damage all along the properties near the creek. Thank you.
Okay, so they were very complicated. I'm going to start at the beginning. So the first one, do you believe that the stormwater utility can be improved upon to help diminish the amount of stormwater the City of Johns Creek currently deals with?
So I can't fully answer that question until I know what the utility is going to do for everybody, and I don't even think they fully got their head around the benefits that are going to come in the mitigation efforts, because it just got off the ground. So I really can't say at this time. We have to wait and evaluate that after the repair and the lining and the replacement of the pipes happen, and then maybe I'll have a better idea.
Okay, and then the second part, with the stormwater utility currently in place, do you believe the city should bear any responsibility to either fund or participate in funding for the dredging of retention ponds and lakes that are fed by stormwater from public roads and areas outside of the subdivisions that receive the stormwater?
So yes, that's a very complicated question too, and pretty much my same answer is let's wait and see what happens with the stormwater utility that's in place and what effects that has on slowing down the water. And then we also need to find out how many ponds are out there, how many have already been dredged, and what the costs are associated before we can say. We got to make sure, we're fiscally responsible in all aspects. But if it's something that, we find necessary that needs to be taken on, then we need to do that.
Okay, and the final question is related to the Atlanta Regional Commission. The City of Johns Creek has the largest amount of the Chattahoochee River running through any North Fulton city. We have numerous older subdivisions and golf courses adjacent to the Hooch, which means we have a responsibility to enforce the MRPA. Should the City of Johns Creek work with the Atlanta Regional Commission to require the education plus continuing education of homeowners, private home sellers, potential home buyers, homeowner boards, realtors, tree removal companies, etc., when dealing with the Chattahoochee River within the 2,000-foot zone requirement of the MRPA, this will eliminate the harmful removal of valuable trees that drink large amounts of stormwater and stop erosion along this area next to the hooch.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm honestly surprised that they don't already do that. In Rivermont, we own the private riverfront acreage along the Chattahoochee at 27 acres. And I'm very well aware of MRPA. We can't even move dead trees when they die and fall down. We have to leave them there. So I'm a little surprised that's not already implemented, but if it's not, then that would be something good to do. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to keep you there for the next one. We're moving now on to traffic. With the changes in the community due to COVID and how work from home and commuting have changed, where do you stand on road expansion in the city? Do you intend to move forward with widening of 141?
No, I don't. I think there are mitigation efforts we can put in place, traffic calming measures, but to widen it would just mean more people coming. If you widen it, they will come. And then you're going to widen it so much, we're going to be out of a place to live. So no, I don't think that that's the solution.
So basically, the question was, where do you stand on road expansion in the city?
So again, everything has to be taken on a case-by-case basis, but overall, I don't think road expansion, specifically if we're talking about 141 or Barnwell Road or Jones Bridge Road, I don't think that's the answer. Thank you.
Larry? Do you want me to? Yeah.
No, I've got it. So traffic is one of the major concerns we all deal with every single day. It is a problem within our city as a pass-through city. What most people need to understand is that 141, High Bridge, State Bridge, and Abbott's Bridge, those are state-run roads. They're owned and managed by the GDOT, Georgia Department of Transportation. So what we influence are the lanes and lights. We can expand and synchronize the lights, but that's pretty much all we can do. I do not believe in expanding that bridge. I don't agree with expanding State Bridge or 120. Unfortunately, that decision we can push off for only so long. And then at some point in time, Forsyth County will be asking us to enforcing GDOT to expand that road. I don't want to do it. I will do everything to avoid doing that. But at some point it will be out of our control. And things like traffic counts and cars and all those other metrics that are out there contribute to the analysis of whether it should or should not. And as we build the town center, as we have more traffic coming into the town center, those will move us to the point where they'll probably have to expand it at some point in time. But I will do everything I can to avoid it as long as possible.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Come back to you. This is related. What will you do to reduce the negative environmental and financial impacts, such as air pollution and road damage, from multiple trash collection trucks going through the same routes around the city every week?
That's a great question, and boy, I've got another question or a statement on the backside of that. I believe in the fair market economy. I think there are multiple organizations that pick up trash every week. I don't really like it. I don't know if the city is in a position to take on sanitation and pick up trash, if you will. But I do understand that there is a burden on the streets, noise pollution, and at what point do we stop? Because noise pollution is a big deal with picking up trash as well as the damage to the streets. So at this point, I would venture to say that let the free market economy go forward and just and keep it as it is. There's been other cities locally that have tried to hold it as a city service, and it's been pretty much a disaster.
Do you have a question? What will you do to reduce the negative environmental and financial impacts, such as air pollution and road damage, from multiple trash collection trucks going through the same routes around the city every week?
So I think we first should ask the citizens if they want the city to handle the trash, like Roswell does. Not because that would be an additional tax, and I want to make sure that that's something that everyone wants. But also just be cognizant. They did this when I lived in Gwinnett County. The county took over the trash. You paid it in with your taxes every year. If they skipped you, they weren't coming back. They didn't care about customer service because they had you locked in. You couldn't shop for prices. So just realize that it may sound good to have one trash provider, but it just puts limitations on all of our choices. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're moving on to Performing Arts Community Centre. In the town centre, it is proposed to have a Performing Arts Community Centre built with a minimum cost of $52 million. It has been stated that even after the Performing Arts Centre is open, it would require a minimum of 60% city funding annually to just keep the doors open. What is your position on the funding of not only the construction cost, but also the year-over-year cost to keep the centre open, as well as future maintenance costs?
Okay, so everybody that I've heard wants a legacy center for performing arts, which would be a great idea. That would give us something unique that not other surrounding communities have. But we have to make sure the citizens want to pay for it. So we need to see the return on investment. Is it worth it? If it is, we need to see if we have it has to be a public-private partnership with some possible large donors. And I can't remember the rest of that question. Do you mind? I'm sorry.
The remainder of the question was regarding the ongoing cost to fund it and run it.
Right. So we need to see all those figures and then just put it out and ask the citizens. Thank you.
Question?
No, I've got it. Thank you. So the Legacy Arts Center, everyone is in agreement they want to do it. It's going to be a pillar within the town center itself. But as we've already spent about $250,000 on an analysis that was done, paid by Fulton County, and we need to take that analysis one step further. We have not seen return on investment, ROI. So before we can go forward with this, it's basic business, basic fundamentals. We need to go ahead and lay this out and look at an ROI. What's it going to cost to build a 1,000-seat center? What are the income potential from that center besides the concerts? Is there other facilities that's within the center that we can have sort of incubator companies that's within the arts, but be able to charge and get some rent for that? But the ongoing maintenance, how do we pay for it, and what's the revenue coming in on a monthly basis, and is it a positive ROI? It comes down just to the numbers. Now, if the ROI doesn't quite justify to build this, then we as citizens, we have to determine, is this something that we want to go forward with? Is this part of our strategic plan? Because it may not financially make sense, but from a citizen in a city and a long-term strategy, is this something we want to incorporate into the plan? So I think in public and private partnership, we'll probably have to go forward with this. There could be a bond floated on some of this also. We just have to go through the numbers. Thank you.
Okay. So Larry, I'm coming back to you. The Johns Creek Convention Visitor and Visitors Bureau has been the topic of conversation lately. It appears to be an open violation of the Sunshine Laws and has stated publicly that the law does not apply to them. Based on this, do you support continuing the relationship with the Convention Visitors Bureau, or would you support bringing this in-house and putting it under control of the Johns Creek Economic Development Director?
That's a great question, and there's a lot of controversy over the CBD. They actually do a very good service for our city. Though we need to stop, take a look at the contract. If there is violations within the contract itself, a contract is a contract is a contract. We need to understand if there's a breach of contract and there's a sunshine laws that have been breached. We need to understand if there are ramifications to that. Can it be fixed? And if the answer is yes, it can be fixed. And there may be a penalty, because I have not seen the contract. But if it can be fixed, let's figure out how to fix that relationship and go forward. Because they have proven themselves to be a valuable part of the city. But if the contract was breached in such a way that it was notorious and obvious and it was intentional, then I think we need to sit back and figure out if that's the best partner we have, or can we bring that in-house and do it that way. And we just look at the numbers as far as how much they're getting money from the taxes and what we can do it in-house. I just need more information on that.
Shall I read that again? Yeah. The Johns Creek Convention and Visitors Bureau has been a topic of conversation lately. It appears to be an open violation of the Sunshine Laws and has stated publicly that the law does not apply to them. Based on this, do you support continuing the relationship with the JC Convention and Visitors Bureau, or would you support bringing it in-house and putting it under the control of the Johns Creek Economic Development Director?
So I haven't read the contract either. I think first we have to read the contract and come to a mutual understanding. What are the deliverables? What are the expectations? And go from there. No, immediately my default is we have a group of volunteers who are serving, and I want to enable everyone to volunteer. So I wouldn't be in favor without giving them a chance and understanding the terms of bringing it in-house, because then our tax dollars have to pay for that, and I don't want to have to increase our taxes at all. So I would be more favorable about having a volunteer committee operate, just so it's done transparently and what we have agreed to. Thank you.
Okay. Changing topics completely now. Do you believe in a vaccine mandate, a mask mandate, a vaccine passport? Would you enforce such if it was ever required?
Okay, so thank you for the question, and that's the good point. How do you enforce it? It's easy to say, yes, we're going to mandate, but who's going to enforce it? Personally, I think that choice is between an individual and their doctor. And you have to be cognizant of the fact of what will happen when I'm forcing somebody to do something, just like my kids, I'm basically telling them I know better than they know. And I'm not willing to take on that responsibility because we each know our own bodies. So I would not be in support of that. Thank you.
Larry?
I would have to agree with 100% what Stacy said. I don't agree with all the mandates. I think we need to have a relationship between the patient, individual, and the doctor. It's a choice. I am personally fully vaccinated because I'm always out in public meeting many people all the time. But that's my choice. And for any government institution to mandate what should go into your body, I think that runs against the course of who we are as free people. So no, I don't agree with any of that. Thank you.
Okay, Larry, keep you there. Changing gears yet again. With the park plans for Corley Creek previously discussed and sent for engineering by the council, do you support the continued implementation of these current plans, or do you support readdressing these plans to potentially proceed to a different park plan?
The Corley Creek Park plan seems to be, from what I can gather, seems to be pretty intact. It's well designed, well thought about. There are some components that are missing. We need to make sure that the fields, whether it's cricket, football, or baseball, they need to have a place for all the teams, the feeder teams, as well as the other individuals, leagues, if you will, have a place to actually play. So I think we need to make sure that that's embedded within the park plan. I believe that there's other things that are missing within the plan, and so I think they need to be addressed. Part of it is an outdoor auditorium, if you will, or an indoor auditorium where there's, a gym or a place where you can actually work out and have an indoor facility, because it may not always be outside, because it could be raining and it could be 95 degrees. So there's other items. I think it's a work in progress, that we need to do with parks.
Okay, Stacey. With the park plans for Crawley Creek previously discussed and sent for engineering by the City Council, do you support the continued implementation of these current plans, or do you support readdressing these plans to proceed potentially to a different park plan?
So my default is to stick with the plan to save money. Anytime you go to build a house, you have to know the overall layout and plan, because you start doing the underground utilities and the wiring, and when you stop and change course and come up with another plan, it just costs that much more money to do it over again. So yes, we definitely need football fields and soccer fields, but any changes that are made, I would hope, aren't going to be wasting money on the path we've already chosen. Thank you.
More simple one maybe. Can Johns Creek open a recycling centre like the one in Roswell?
Oh, that would be great. I hope that they can. That's one question. I haven't talked to the city manager about what it would entail, but that would be wonderful. At least, glass recycling, because right now there's no glass recycling. It just gets thrown away. So I think that's something we should definitely explore.
Thank you. Larry?
Yes, absolutely. I participated in, I've got a whole lot of junk. So, so I participated in the Johns Creek recycle event they had at City Hall. So, and it was, people were lined up. So I think we all want that. We just have to find the right place for it. There's not much space left in Johns Creek to do different activities. So I think that's probably the challenge, but I think in general, I think most people would like that.
Okay. How would you keep Johns Creek focused on the residents and not for the developers?
The framework that Johns Creek has, and we have to use this as our foundation. That's the master comp plan, because the master comp plan has many areas identified for different types of zoning, different type of uses, if you will, whether it's park uses, whether it's mixed density, high-end density areas. There's 14 mixed use places like State Bridge and 141. So I think the residents are protected by the master comp plan and the densities that we talked about, 16 units per acre. But I also think that developers are always going to push the boundaries. They're going to always push the comp plan. They're going to always ask for zoning variances. And we need to hold them accountable. The Board of Zoning Appeals, that's what they do. They protect the residents from overreach by developers.
Stacey?
And that's going to be my default. Always the 2018 comprehensive plan that allows, this plan, the policy document, was implemented with all input from the citizens over a year. So I think there's not much reason to stray from it, and no, it doesn't call for overdevelopment at all. Thank you.
Okay. So while you're there, what is your attitude toward small business? How do you plan to help them survive? If you look at Alpharetta, they have done a great job of encouraging businesses. For example, the average age of a restaurant in Johns Creek is less than 6 years. During the pandemic, Johns Creek Council would not let restaurants expand into the parking lots, like has been done in other cities, without charging huge fees. How would you change this if you become part of the council?
So first thing is to reach out to those other cities and see what they're doing that we're missing. Is it our permitting process? Is it our licensing process? Is it just our demographics? But we need to reach out to them and see what they're doing, because it is extremely important that we support small business, especially if we don't want our taxes to go up. Thank you.